and welcome to Let's Talk Software Security. My name is Mark Lambert, Chief Product Officer here at ArmorCode, and I'm joined by Rohan Parak. How are we doing, Rohan?
I'm doing good, Mark. How about you?
Very good. So, Rohan, you're new to the show, so let's go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience.
My name is Rohan Parak. I'm Director of Product Management here at ArmorCode. About 6 months here. I'm in California as well, just like Mark, but slightly in a different location. Less weather is better for Mark. I come from AppSec and security background. I started my career looking at bugs, security bugs being assigned to me and having no clue about how to deal with those. And that kind of generated a lot of interest and anxiety in me. And then I moved to work for system integrators who were doing vulnerability management, companies that were literally doing pen testing for customers, web application firewalls, endpoint security. And then, of course, kind of spending a lot of time on the field as a solution architect and pre-sales engineer, I kind of moved into a product management role in the same space. And great to be here. Great to be in the game now with the ArmorCode and team.
Yeah. Only 6 months feels like 6 years, right? This is startup life, and a lot of great things that we're doing within the community. And one of the things about this podcast is we really get to talk about the things that we see and we experience working with the community members that are part of the ArmorCode community. And one of those things is obviously application security posture management. This is like a big movement in the industry right now. Our traditional approach to application security, just doesn't scale to the modern, DevSecOps world where we've got cloud containers, microservices, high release agile iterations. Volume of data is just overwhelming, folks. Now we also then start looking at, well, what's the initiative that's driving this? And it's DevSecOps. Now, infrastructure delivery is different, right? So now we've got traditional vulnerability management being impacted because the vulnerabilities are no longer just in the operating system, they're in the applications, and how do we respond? So we've seen very clearly that these two worlds are coming together, and application security posture management is the emerging approach to address these challenges. So I know, Rohan, you've been in application security for a number of years now, right? Kind of what have you seen as the trends that have been pushing organizations towards this?
As you said, right, the type of vulnerabilities, right, the type of assessments that you would do in any organization, right, that has expanded drastically. So that means you have a variety of scan types coming in, and even more number of vulnerabilities coming in, right? And I remember even back then, 10 years back, when I was working with pen testers, they would find 10, 20 vulnerabilities in a product, but then that is exponentially high because that's not just pen testing. You're doing SCA, you're doing SAS, TAST, IS, and whatnot. More importantly, all organizations are becoming a product organization today, right? Even a financial company has their own technology product. So product security is again becoming an important aspect because you no longer have to or are only limited to security of software that they are using, but you're also focusing on security of the software that you are going to deliver to your customers. So the scope expands drastically. And I think that's where there is a strong need of platforms like an ASPM, where organization can kind of look at it in a more holistic and consolidated manner and look at the technology risks that are coming in that they are exposed to.
Yeah, and that definition of, the A in ASPM, what's the definition of the application, right? The application is obviously the code you're developing. It's the infrastructure that that application is deployed upon. So now this is where the vulnerability management stuff starts coming in. So really, modern vulnerability management really needs to take an application security focus, which is why it kind of rolls up underneath the ASPM umbrella. And then the third leg of the stool is software supply chain. So it's the software that you are using either within the software that you're also developing. So obviously open source is the obvious one there. SCA, source composition analysis, is going to help us there. But there's also commercial software that we are using as part of our deliveries. APIs. What's behind those APIs? This is where the SBOM comes in. It's also business continuity software. Are you using Salesforce in your organization? Where are you managing your customer data? Where are you managing your critical business data? And how do you understand your security posture of those applications as well? It's right, all rolls together under this overall umbrella. And the challenge that I also see is that now there's so much data, how do we what do we fix first? So I know we've been talking about that, and we're talking about risk and what have you. Kind of what have you seen as being the key things that drive that prioritization, and the things that an organization needs to be able to do so that they can get visibility and prioritize the appropriate work?
The two things that we have seen very commonly, right? And as we talk to our customers also, one is what's the real impact of a particular vulnerability, right? And it could be a CVE that's just coming along, just announced, or probably still in kind of on the dark web, a 0-day, or it could be a misconfiguration in your environment, or it could be a risk that an external third party might bring up because you are using some of their services. So what kind of impact these services that can they have? And the second is what kind of assets you are protecting against, right? Because depending on the criticality of assets, if it is your most critical business application, that becomes super important when it comes to prioritization. So more and more what we see is a combination of these two things, which will be used by product security teams as well as application security teams in any organization to be able to help them prioritize, because that gives them a much more focused approach. And as a result, also help the developers, right? People who have to go and actually fix those vulnerabilities. And it's not small number, right? It's huge on most of the time. So it's always better to kind of look at what works best.
Yeah, it definitely, we've been, seeing this switch, right, from a severity orientated prioritization where I'm going to fix my criticals to a risk orientated prioritization. Really, I'm going to fix those things that are critical, that are representing a bigger technical risk, right? So you reference CVEs that are exploited or have a high EPSS score, meaning that the probability of exploit is higher, mapped with the business context of how important is that to my organization. Those two things together kind of like have to come together. And it's really where bringing the data from vulnerability management and from the application security together into one process really kind of like helps you provide that bigger visibility. Now, the other component that I see as well is obviously it's driven by this proliferation of tools, right? You've got more and more tools. So how do I put this governance layer, which in essence is what ASPM is providing, is a governance layer that sits on top of this tool ecosystem? And the thing that I am you're constantly amazed with, right? When I joined ArmorCode 2 years ago, we had 60 integrations with security tools. We just tipped over 210, 216 to be specific, integrations today. That's an insane volume of tools, right? Why do we have so many of these tools out there, Rohan? What is driving this disparity in the tool ecosystem?
And it doesn't slow down as well, right? Just when we thought that, I think we have a good coverage, there are more. So there are two things, right? One is how can you kind of become better in identifying vulnerability, right? The tools on the tool ecosystem is also trying to kind of bring in advances which can help get in more focus and get in more coverage as well. There is a separate track of open source community, right, which is where a lot of these tools are coming in. And what we have realized is most mature organizations have spent time in finding out which tool works best in their environment, in the language frameworks, in the way they develop applications, in the way they deploy those applications. So a lot of AppSec leadership that we have spoken to, right, we realize that it takes some time for them to understand what's the best in breed that works for them. It takes some time for them to be able to go on and tune those tools so that it works in a best manner for them. So the proliferation is essentially driven by demand, because there is a demand like anything else in the economy, right? There is a demand for kind of having better tools, and organizations have been able to kind of find tools which work for them best. And not every tool works for every organization, and that's why you see a proliferation of tools in a same category also. And the technology advances, the kind of threats that are there, I think we'll continue to see that. And the expertise of kind of finding, let's say, a dependency related vulnerability, expertise of finding a first party code related vulnerability, expertise of finding a vulnerability in a third party support software, will always remain with these tool providers, and they have developed these over years, right? So we cannot kind of discount that.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, we need to dig deeper on this subject, because really this is a key component as to how you orchestrate this and how you put the governance on top of all of this in an ASPM solution. But I just looked at the clock. We've gone pretty long on this one, so let's go ahead and press the pause, and then we'll pick up the conversation in the next episode, and we'll go deeper into this tool ecosystem and how you can build an ASPM program and really get a handle on your application security with this highly diverse tool ecosystem. So with that being said, thanks very much for watching. Click like, subscribe. Check out the show notes. We're going to have links to Gartner research as well as the application security state of application security report that we pulled out last year. There's data in there which talks about exactly this best of breed approach. Rohan, thanks very much. I'll see you on the next podcast.
See you next time. Thank you.